It's time for the Daily Stand Up Podcast presented by AgileDad with your host, Lee Henson. Without any further ado, let's get started. Okay, that's it. You've finally done it. You brought me to my wit's end. I'm going to finally use the F word for the first time in years. No, really. I want to put the F back in conversation. Somebody in one of my classes, a gentleman by the name of John, he he recently was talking to me about, it was during a facilitator class, during the Agile Coaching Skills Certified Facilitator class. And he said a comment and he says, "It's about time we put the F in the conversation." And I was like, whoa, that sounded horrible. But then when I realized what he was saying, he said, yeah, he says, it's time for us to start talking about our feelings. And I'm like, the F word, feelings, got it. And I didn't realize that this was such a big issue. I mean, at home, when we start talking about feelings, it's perfectly normal when you're talking about feelings with your spouse or feeling with your kids or how things make you feel and what's going on. But I didn't realize that this was such a big issue in a workspace until I really sat down and thought about it. Now, what's interesting is the way John presented this, and I appreciate it. We were talking about when you're dealing with remote workers. So, when you're dealing with a force of people who are outside of your control, who are working from home, working from a remote office, working from a remote location, and they are unable to be as expressive about their feelings, what we found is that there's a series of three things that happen. So let's go through the series. So here are the three things that we discovered. The first thing is that people tend to not be as clear about their emotional process behind their decisions when they're in a remote setting. And it's not because they don't want to, it's just because they don't know how to do it or they haven't been accustomed to doing it. Or it's something that your body language could say if you were in person. But without you being in person, you could use as much expressive body language as you want, like I am right now, and nobody can see that you're doing it, right? So it becomes a little more challenging. So the first thing we discovered is that body language in a remote setting is incredibly hard or impossible to see. So it's important for us to find new ways to communicate. The second thing that we discovered, the second challenge, the second path, was that people in these settings tend to try to do things as efficiently and effectively as possible as a way to not have to deal with other people. I know that sounds weird, but sometimes it's like, okay, I just want to get in here, get it done, and get out. What do I have to do? What do I have to say to make that happen? And sometimes it's, hey, let's just switch our meetings over to Slack because I can type things at any point during the day and I'm good to go, right? So it's one of these things where what we're seeing is that there's a distancing between people and people who are working remotely who just want to get things done and people who emotionally invest and care about what they're doing and how what they're doing is being perceived. So it's a difficult conundrum because there's a balancing act. One's not right and one's not wrong. It's just there's a time and a place where getting the message across quickly and efficiently and effectively, especially when it comes to making a decision, do I do A or B, or is this a better option or that a better option, or how do we do this, or what is our plan going forward with regard to this? Sometimes they're just very crystal clear, clean cut answers that you can present or represent. The other side of the equation, though, is part three. And this is where you have something that's going to require some emotional engagement or some level of conversation, but you failed to provide the right outlet for that avenue of conversation and caused a disruption that you're not easily going to be able to overcome. Or you make assumptions about the way another person feels and it causes you to make bad judgment. Or you make poor decisions because the truth is you don't know how other people feel. The solution that I found is actually quite simple. So I thought I'd give you this really simple, easy to follow, easy to do, something that you could change right now. Now, the thing is, it's easy to change, but it's not easy to make it a habit. So if you haven't read the book Atomic Habits, you need to go read that book. It's absolutely incredible. But this is going to be the way to get it to become a habit. So here we go. The change that you have to make is you have to realize that no one can make you feel a certain way and that you have no control over how another person feels. So I'm going to say it again. No one can make you feel a certain way, and you have no control over how another person feels, meaning you can't forcefully make a person feel a certain way. Now, you can be compelling and charismatic and tell a good story and bring people into your story and elicit emotion. That's totally fair, totally relevant. But you can't say, I'm going to make this person feel this way. It's impossible. And on the flip side, if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, there's no way that you can say, so and so made me feel this way, or that, or what this person did made me angry, or it made me sad, or it made me. I mean, okay, they didn't make you that way. What they did was terrible, and you chose to feel that way. You elected to follow that path. You decided, subconsciously or consciously, that that was how you were going to react. So the question is, how do we change the way that we react? How do we change the way that we present, or how do we change the way that we elicit emotion? And how do we change the way that we react to tough things in order for us to be able to more accurately portray how we're trying to feel and what we're trying to do, right? So there's certainly something wrong with people who have lack of emotion, who don't react positively or negatively to their environment or circumstance around them. And in no way am I trying to turn you into one of those people. But what I am saying is that sometimes we have to say to ourselves, okay, I can't forcefully get someone to feel a certain way, nor should anyone be able to forcefully take over the way that I feel. And if I know that to be true, then I need to be a better communicator and a better facilitator, both in the workspace and at home. And part of that is by asking some of the most powerful questions. The first question is the one that everybody already knows what I'm going to say. Help me understand. That sounds like a tough place to be. Help me understand how we got here. Help me understand why you feel this way. Help me understand what we could have done different. Now, the interesting thing here is, do you notice none of those are closed ended questions? The key to this is to not ask closed ended questions. If you ask powerful, open ended questions, you're going to wind up in a place where you're going to get powerful, warm answers. And what you have to keep in mind is that the other party may not be completely emotionally in the right place or in the right headspace when this happens. So it's one of these things where you need to be mindful of where people are, but at the same time, you don't have to be. There's a difference between being empathetic and sympathetic. And I think that if you show empathy and you understand where someone is and you explore why they feel certain things or why they're doing certain things, and you build on that feeling, it's going to help you better understand how you can tackle tough things that are happening in your world at the time. It may even help you change your opinion about something. There have been lots of opportunities, especially here recently, where I've been in class or I've been with students or I've been talking about different issues or things that are going on. And the feeling needs to be part of the conversation, but it shouldn't be a point of contention or confusion. And I think that sometimes we are afraid to express how we feel because we're afraid that we'll be hurt. Or sometimes we're afraid to ask other people how they feel because we are afraid that they might not be in the same place as we are on that topic. What I'm here to tell you today is that it's time for us to make adjustments. It's time for us to figure this out. This doesn't have to be so challenging. It doesn't have to be so scary. It's important for us to understand feelings, but it's also important for us to put the F back in conversation. Meaning, instead of us monopolizing the conversation or letting the feelings drive what we're saying, we need to become curious explorers and figure out ways to justify our conversation and figure out where other people are so that we're not monopolizing or pushing our feelings or concerns onto others. So, as long as we're not being forceful and as long as we're being good about what we're saying, I guess the whole crux of this is that if we can get back to the point where we understand that feelings are okay and that everybody has them, but that you can't force yours upon others and others can't force theirs upon you, it's going to lead you to a place where you can explore why things are the way they are and ask the right curious questions without becoming overwhelmed or becoming jaded or disenfranchised. That's going to do it for today. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you have a topic you want us to discuss, learn more at AgileDad.com. We'd love to hear from you. And as always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.